Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Barefoot Bay Recreation District Board of Trustees regular meeting, March 13, 2020, at 1 p.m. As we do before each meeting, the Board of Trustees would like to take a moment of silence to remember all our military personnel, men and women, both past and present, who have or are still protecting this great country of ours. We will follow this with a pledge of allegiance to the flag led by Mr. Mino. Let's have a moment of silence, please.
Thank you. Would you please stand and remove your hats? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming, and please turn off all cell phones. Roll call. Trustee Compton, please do the roll call.
Yes, Chairman Klosky, are you here with us?
Yes.
Trustee Mino, are you here?
Yes.
Trustee Henderson? Yes. Trustee Compton is here. Trustee Loveland is not here. He's been excused today. We also have with us John Coffey, our district manager. We have Stephanie Brown, our district clerk. We have Cliff Reppinger, our legal counsel, and we have Matt Getz, our property service manager, Rich Armington, our resident relations manager. We have Kathy Mendez, our food and beverage manager, Ernie Cruz, our golf operations manager, and Charles Henley, our finance manager, is also here with us today. We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We have two milestones here. One is for Christopher Burke, and one is for Eric Vandershot. Would you please come up to the podium, please? Why so they don't fall out there? Because one of them's... Eric?
Yes.
Barefoot Bay Recreation District Employees Appreciation Certificate awarded to Eric Vandershot in grateful recognition of your 5 years of dedication and valuable service to the Barefoot Bay Recreation District. We couldn't do it without you. Awarded this 13th day of March 2020. Here you are. Pen on here, so that's he's going to lose the same. So be careful with this one. Barefoot Bay Recreation District Employees Appreciation Certificate awarded to Christopher Burke in grateful recognition of your 5 years of dedication and valuable service to Barefoot Bay Recreation District. We couldn't do it without you. Awarded this 13th day of March 2020. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Would the rest of the board please come up to the podium? Barefoot Bay Recreation District St. Patrick's Day Proclamation. Whereas March 17 is a day we remember St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, and the Irish Americans who have contributed to our government, military, and economy throughout the history. And whereas March is Irish American Heritage Month that began in 1991 to honor the achievements of the Irish immigrants and their descendants. And whereas St. Patrick's Day was first celebrated more than 200 years ago and continued to be a national and cultural holiday. And whereas we remember the thousands of courageous Irish immigrants and descendants of immigrants who served in the United States Armed Forces in peace and war. And whereas the presidential preference primary election is March 17 this year, and St. Patrick's Day must be celebrated in Barefoot Bay. Be it now resolved by the Board of Trustees of Barefoot Bay Recreation District that Monday, March 16, 2020 is proclaimed St. Patrick's Day in Barefoot Bay. The Board of Trustees encourages Barefoot Bay residents to celebrate all things Irish, and while commemorating this important day by honoring those who have strived in unsettling circumstances to find a better place for their families to work, serve, and find success in this great country, America. Passed and adopted by the Board of Trustees of Barefoot Bay Recreation District this 13th day of March 2020. Thank you. Yeah. Give it to him. Go ahead.
On behalf of the trustees and the fine folks of Barefoot Bay, thank you for this presentation. We appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not supposed to. We bow. Bow.
I would like somebody to make a motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
So move. I second.
All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of minutes for February 25th, 2020. Motion to approve.
I make a motion that we approve those minutes, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Compton made a motion. I need a second. Luann made it second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Treasury report. Luann, would you be so kind as to do the treasury report for us?
Treasury report for March 13th, 2020. Petty cash in the general fund as of 3/5/20, $2,500. MB&T operating account has in it $3,161,915.03. Interest-bearing accounts, SBA reserve, $695,965.24, for a total cash balance in the general fund of $3,860,380.27. I hope I got that right. The assessments, daily deposits received for 2/18 to 3/5, $140,000, $897.21. Sorry about that. Expenditures over $5,000, 2/18 to 3/5. American Shoreline Restorations for the final payment for the Lake Bank restoration, $71,790. Complete restaurant equipment for the new ice machine in Building A, $7,941.90. Health First for employee health for 320, $25,725.11. Legal fees to Roseway Swan, $10,652.26. U.S. Foods, $5,284.29. FP&L for electric for as of 1/20, $6,257.36. Home Depot, $5,433.33. SDS for management fees as of 2/20, $13,265.04. U.S. Treasury for payroll taxes 1/3/1/20, $17,013.41. Payroll ending 3/1/20, $67,096.37. Payroll taxes for payroll ending 2/16/20, $22,294.87. Payroll for ending 2/16/20, $70,778.55. Total expenditures over $5,000, $323,532.49. I submit this for your approval.
Motion to approve as read.
I'll make a motion that we approve as read, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Second.
All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Audience participation. I have 8 items. So when I call your name, please come to the podium. I see she's coming to her already. Elaine Vandish, shot. It's not on.
Elaine Van Burshot. Just, there's
Yeah,
a B in there, Joe. I am just here to tell the residents of Barefoot Bay to remind them that the CVO comedy show has been canceled. Trying to do our part with working with the World Health Organization with this virus that is going around. So I would like you to spread the word. We are postponing it, and we will reschedule the 3 comedians again. And you may keep your ticket in your table assignment, or as of Monday, you can come in for a refund. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to the doctor's.
Thank you. Richard Swatlow.
Rich Swatlow, 636 Marlin Circle. I would have written what I'm going to say in the Tatler sound off, but that does not exist anymore. So I'm speaking here. So here it goes. I do not consider the name, the facilities, to be a contest, because it's a legal vote to change the legal names of an official recreation district property, which the Bay is going to have to file legal forms on. When this was first brought up at a BOT meeting by Mr. George Baldwin, it was discussed there was going to be a mail-out ballot. Residents like myself that do not want the current name designation changed would have a checkoff box on the ballot that would say no change. Both these options have now changed. At the last BOT meeting, Board Member Compton and Mr. Baldwin said you would now have to pick up a ballot in person, no mail-out. This is a legal vote open to all residents, but snowbirds that are going north cannot vote, and no provisions was made for residents that are homebound or handicapped to vote. At this meeting, the peak of the week, and the Tatler, there was no mention that you could vote no. And most important of all, the ballot, there is no space to say no. Even a winning ballot has no weight. It states on the ballot, the Board of Trustees has final decisions for adopting or rejection of a winning entry. I could have 50 entries that would say no change. I do not feel the board would have accepted that as a winning entry. I feel this is not an open to all residents to vote their opinions. I know I could not vote for no on the ballot. This vote is for residents only. Really? I did vote. I put an X through the ballot. But when I went to the building, no one asked to see my ID. No one checked to see what name I put on the ballot. And no one checked to see if I took a handful of ballots to fill out at home. There can be no legal, accurate ballot count when no secure voting station exists. In closing, no preparation has been made to allow all residents to vote. A resident cannot say no on the legal ballot. The board can pick the winner, not the voters. The voting stations were unsecure. The legal vote should be stopped now. Tell the residents of this meeting what you're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary McGrath?
Hi, Mary McGrath. I'm at 813 Silverthorne Court, and I'm speaking on behalf of a number of the members. Like that? You can't hear me? Okay. Mary McGrath, 813 Silverthorne Court. I'm up here speaking on behalf of a number of the members of the Boat and Fishing Club because we want to see the proposal that has been made by Leesburg Concrete for the bathrooms at the beach be approved by the board. We would like to be able to use the beach a lot more for events, but right now with just the porta potty things, it's really not convenient and good for us. So we are supporting that proposal today. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Griffin? No? Okay, thank you. Jack Reddy?
Jack Reddy, 806 Tamarind Circle. I have two specific comments. One, I am pinch hitting for Mr. George Baldwin regarding the naming contest, just as a reminder that the balloting can be accomplished at the office building, the CVO building, or the lounge, and the contest is on up until March 31st. And that is what Mr. Baldwin asked me to present to you. Secondly, first of all, thank the group for the great recognition of the Irish Club. The Irish American Club is canceling the parade on Monday, March 16th, due to the existing conditions. We appreciate the great help of Stephanie, John, Kathy Mendez, and the lady who runs the LED sign, because the LED sign for the next couple days will say that the parade has been canceled. Tomorrow morning, our core group is meeting at 9 o'clock to discuss what to do about our March 18th dinner. We have over 175 folks coming. We will try and get that decision done early. But the Pipers will not be coming. The Honor Guards for the American Legion and the Marine Corps will not be coming. And we have to cancel an order for 300 donuts from Walmart. And that will keep us busy and keep us out of trouble. But for those who are watching on TV at home, and those of you who have many friends, please pass the word. The parade is canceled on Monday. We will have a decision shortly on the dinner dance on Wednesday. And again, thank you to John's staff for helping us.
Thank you. Jeannie Osborne? Anyone else from the audience like to come to the podium? Okay, this part of the audience participation is closed, but I do have, okay. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judy Allen from 600 Seagull Drive. Hi, I'm Judy Allen from 600 Seagull Drive, and I just wanted to mention that on the Barefoot Bay Beach, we were there about a week ago, and the way they pushed the sand back, my husband, it's very difficult for him to walk, and he had one of those carts. And thank goodness for the kind people of Barefoot Bay that immediately saw that he needed help with that cart, getting it back up that huge hill that they left after they had been working on the beach. It's impossible, really, for two people to get a fishing cart, up that hill. So if they could make or do something to accommodate fishing carts just at the very bottom there where it turns onto the beach from the stairs, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Jan Hannafy, 492 Tarpon Drive. I would just like to suggest that with everything that's going on, if there's a possibility to get those hand sanitizer dispensers, to put some in the lounge, the restrooms, at the pools, just so that they're available for people. We can't get the stuff anywhere in any store. And I just think with everything that's going on, it would be a good idea to get some of them. The ones like they have at the hospital, you put your hands under them and the stuff comes out. I just think it would be a good idea to put them on other spots, 19th hole, here, anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? This portion of the audience participation is closed, except I have a resident here that will speak on two different agenda items when the time comes. Unfinished business. First is the replacement of two golf course green awards contracts. John?
Mr. Chairman, trustees, residents here and watching at home. In January, Trustee Mino presented a proposal to replace 4 greens, which we explored the feasibility and the costs and brought back a conceptual proposal last month, at which time the board, by consensus, agreed to proceed with replacing 2 of the greens and moving up the irrigation projects in the 5-year plan. Therefore, what's before the board today is a proposal from ABM, which your policy manual allows you to give them a proposal without a second bid since they're responsible for the work. It will replace 2 push-up greens with engineered greens with drainage and proper soil at a cost of approximately $93,000. Contract is attached. Mr. Cruz is here if you have any questions. Staff recommends award of contract.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I'd move that we accept that recommendation.
I have something to say, please.
There was a motion made. So
Get the motion out and then you discuss it.
Discuss it.
I'll second the motion just for the purpose of discussing it.
Now?
Go ahead.
About a year ago, I had a meeting with the golfers. A large number of them were of the opinion that 5 years ago the course was perfect. Everything, the greens, the fairways, the sand traps, the rough, etc., etc., etc. As a matter of fact, it was not 5 years ago, but just 4 years ago this coming summer. They were speaking about the time when we had a superintendent named Matt. He was knowledgeable, experienced, and hardworking. When he left in the summer of 2016, the course was in good shape. He left, and the course suffered. We now have a new superintendent named Rick Kerr. He has a number of years being in charge and more years in various assistant roles. He's being backed by a gentleman named Brad, who has 29 years' experience in greens and taking care of a golf course. Meeting with these two men and two more just as qualified, their opinions were the same, that we should invest in a new irrigation system and that the new staff should be given the time to use the expertise to recover these greens. I played golf on Wednesday and took notes on the greens. Because of the lack of rain and an antiquated irrigation system, the greens, and a matter of fact, the fairways are dry. The greens have brown spots and the fairways are yellowish. The green on number 7 is coming in beautifully, but it's being hand watered. Hole 13 is better, but not as good so far. Again, my problem with redoing these greens is that although it's been said they'll never come back and they'll never recover, if they were perfect 4 years ago, with the care of an experienced supervisor and good staff, the greens can and will be great again. When the growing season starts, the grass grows quickly, and in the opinion of experts, we do not need to replace these greens now, and that it would be a waste of time, money, and good sense to do so. So instead of replacing the greens, let's move up the irrigation system again. 2 parts in fiscal year 2020 and the rest of it in fiscal year 2021. Let me make that as a motion. I'll make a motion that we do not replace greens.
There is a motion made on the floor already, so you can't make another motion.
Fine. I'll make it later.
Any other discussion on this?
Yeah, I've got something, I believe. First of all, I'll say that I've received very little feedback from the community on this, so I don't know that the community supports it or doesn't support it. I know we have some golfers who do. My first question to Ernie is, Ernie, do you believe these 2 greens can come back with the proper care? When I say come back, and be at least the quality of greens that you have on the other 15 or 16 greens that we don't seem to have an issue with.
I guess I just simply go back to the discussions we've already had about these things. Anything is possible. However, it really is a decision that's a matter of what you gentlemen and ladies have discussed. It's I'll work with whatever you give me to work with.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, at least in my mind, you're the resident golf course expert that's here with us today. Most of the people here play golf. And if you play golf, you want that green to look as nice and pristine, as perfect as possible. I'm trying to get a feel for Luann's position is these things may come back within a season with the proper care. You've spent a lot more time on the golf course than I have, for sure. Do you believe? I know anything's possible. Do you believe that with the proper care that we will see these greens come back to be acceptable greens?
I believe that I cannot predict the future and that we will do our best effort to make them come back, but I can't with a certainty say those greens will come back or won't come back. All I can tell you is that with the proper irrigation or with the proper care and everything, we will make our best effort to make the best turf conditions there are possible. They are push-up greens. They're a little bit different to care for. But I can't stand here and say, yeah, if we do this, they're going to come back in this condition. Because, no, I can't say no. That's correct. That's what I'm saying. I can't predict that because, you're talking about disease, pesticides, different things that affect it. All I can tell you is that whichever conditions you give me, we will work our best to work off those conditions.
Ernie, let me further. I didn't mean to interrupt. I've gone through all of this, and you all know what I think about the greens and all the literature and the things we've done. Let me ask you this. If you do nothing to shape those greens, to recontour the greens, to change the topsoil the top surfaces and everything else, are those greens going to run, the water's going to run off just like they do in the past?
Well, I believe that's why we have had a proposal for irrigation.
I
system.
understand that, but we're still not reshaping the greens. No matter what you do, if you're going to put water on the top of that green, they're going to run down to the places where it's low. So our proposal, again, is that we're going to restructure them, put 16 inches of new topsoil or new surface and everything, so that this doesn't happen, irrigation, or, in other words, we're going to change the irrigation at the same time. But the point of it is that these greens may come back and look good for a while, but they're going to go back like they have for the last few years every time you get to that certain point where the water goes off. And that's not something we're just thinking. We know that happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I don't know that I would make that conclusion myself. Do I believe that some of the slopes on the greens might be a little bit severe when it comes to push-up greens? I certainly agree, but I also agree that if we were to do an irrigation system that is appropriate, we might be able to. But it's hard to predict the future because the winds we have out here and the slopes and the water running off, it does dry out the greens a lot faster. It's a different playing condition. But I cannot, obviously sit here and tell you. I although I am a golf pro and I do this for a living, the ABM folks have spoken, and I think you should listen more to the experts on turf management. And they've given you their input as well. So once again, it comes down to what you would like to do. I cannot sit here and tell you.
I'm sorry. What was their input?
Well, they met with Luann and both of them said that the
Who
first
met
priority should
Luann and met with who? With just Rick? Or
Rick
you?
and Brad and
Brad and you?
Yeah, and myself.
When was that?
But I was not. I was in the office, but it was a conversation between them. It was, 3 or 4 weeks ago? I'm not sure.
So it's Rick's first day, and we're going to have Rick tell us what he thinks is going to happen to the greens. Just excuse me.
Yeah.
Where in a meeting of 200 men, when they asked him, what about the greens? Are they going to come back? You were the first person, which I agree with you 100%. You jumped up and said, you cannot ask him that because he has no idea.
I am only giving you the information.
I understand that. So I'm just making sure we're all clear here of what somebody is saying somebody said.
I am only giving
Rick,
you the
on that day in front of 200 people, said, you said you cannot ask him that because he has no idea right now. So.
I didn't exactly use those words, though, but you're correct. My statement was it would not be fair to ask somebody
Absolutely,
who's
and
been
you
on
were
the
right
property
to do that.
one day, but I didn't say you can't. I said it would not be fair. But I just once again think that when it comes to grass in the future, every one of the sides that you guys are debating is absolutely correct. You have slopes on the green with wind and runoff that runs the greens off. You have a golf course, though, that those greens were perfectly fine in the past. So if they were perfectly fine in the past, could they possibly be perfectly fine in the future? Yes, but then you can have the back and forth. So both of what you're saying is absolute.
Another question: $92,000 for 2 greens. That I have no idea. I have no idea what it costs to rebuild a green. That just seems like a lot of money for 2 greens. Is that a reasonable price, Ernie, from your experience, to rebuild 2 greens?
Well, you're talking about going from push-up greens to USGA spec greens, which is a total different animal. But in this price, these 2 greens were a little bit different than the other greens in the fact that these greens, your proposal has to reshape, recontour the greens. So there's a little bit more involved than just taking one green out here and digging, down to a certain point and redoing it. You're actually talking about reshaping, recontouring, and doing. So it is a little bit.
Greens are normally so much per square foot and so forth and so on. And Ernie's correct in that if you just went and you said, we don't like the surface on our green, so we're going to respray it, we're going to do all of this, and that's a much simpler project than it is to say we have greens that are like this. The water continually runs off. We have all these bare spots. It's been like that for years. Let's reshape the greens and then respray them and do the things. So it does cost you more money.
So you don't think this is an unreasonable
Everything
price?
we've gone through with all the people that I've looked at in other courses, this is in the ballpark, and it's better to have ABM do it because they are then here, and we can go back to them to make sure it's done correctly if there's
Yeah,
problems.
I mean, I agree. If we're going to have it done, it should be done by the same.
Well, I'm
the
just
same
saying because
company
we
taking
didn't
care
bid
of
it, so you can't compare apples to
Yeah.
apples because we're doing it because it would be easier and much more cost efficient for us to do it this way.
The other thing that's just odd to me when I go through the scope of work is that they don't take any responsibility for repairing the damage in other areas that they may cause by rebuilding those two greens. I mean, the tire marks and the ruts and the fairways or whatever they might create. They have no intention of repairing those. That's going to be on our nickel after we pay the $92,000. Again, I'm asking, is that typical? When any work that I've ever had done in anything, the contractor repairs any damage that he creates as he builds, repairs, erects, or whatever. I don't know. That's just a problem issue for me too, that we've got to go in and repair their damage. And I guess that's not a question to anybody, I suppose, unless I'm asking if that's normal.
If I could jump in on that, part of that is, and I've discussed that with Ernie and also Matt Hill, is there's a lot of variables of what's the level of restoration needed. If we have a very wet summer when this is happening, you're going to have more restoration. Hopefully they can stay as much to the rough as possible, which lessens the cost of rehabbing it. The one thing I would just throw out for folks who have moved here in the last 6 years or so, the 2011-2012 time frame, they took off 4 inches of soil off all the greens and re-sprigged them. What Trustee Mino mentioned, we did that within the last 10 years. And ever since I've been here, we've never been a year without one of the greens having a controversy. If you do nothing, 7 may come back and be fine, but 4 or 3 or another one's going to pop up. It's like whack-a-mole on the golf course. Trying to keep 19 push-up greens perfect is virtually impossible.
So the only solution then is to redo them all, is what you're saying, if we want 19 good greens year after year.
Eventually, and as we discussed privately, that's something I was trying to work into the 5-year plan. I think you all see at the end of the year, short of borrowing a lot of money, I don't think it's feasible to do all 19 in the next 5 years. But it's sort of like I like growing vegetables and plants. If you have 19 buckets for tomatoes, 17 of them have sand, 2 of them have Miracle-Gro with fertilizer, you're going to have a lot better tomatoes out of 2 buckets than you are the other. You may get tomatoes out of the other buckets, but they're not going to be as nice as the ones out of the good conditions.
Also, Roger, you have to, just to answer your question, you may want to look at all the greens. However, when we started this, remember my point, and I put pictures up on the board. You can go to 9, you can go to 18, you can go to 16, you can go to 17, you can go to 6 and 5. Those greens absolutely are playable because they're not shaped, they're not contoured the way these other 4 that we started with are. Those 4 during all of that, when those are playable and everybody's saying, geez, the guys are doing a good job, those 4 still were not back.
So it was the original design of the green from the beginning.
Exactly, and the way they're sloped and the way they're contoured, the way the water runs, all of that stuff has to do with those points. So, yes, you may want at some point to say, geez, do we want a better course? You'd have to look at some other greens. But in the meantime, what you're trying to do is get at least 2 or 3 of them to be on par with the others, so that you don't have those 2 or 3 that stick out.
Well, you never mentioned the green on 3. 3 is content. 3, there's no trees around. The wind blows, and 3's always dried out. 3's not, in my opinion, is very dry and not too playable right now. But a golf course is always something. There's always something going on with a golf course. I still don't think we should do this. I still think that this is a waste of time and money. Not forever, But right now, I think it's a generally waste of time.
Yeah, we talked in our last meeting when we said, okay, let's do 2 of these. We were going to pull up the irrigation and try to get the irrigation in good shape and redone on the golf course. I don't see any of that here.
Irrigation is included in these new greens construction.
Well, I understand temporary fixes around the 2 with new heads and some rerouting of the. But when we talked last meeting, there was going to be some issues when we redid the watering system, the irrigation system, with connecting the old one to these new heads or to these new greens. Was I wrong there? Did I
yes
miss?
And maybe no. That's not something that would keep you from doing this, because you're not going to go to a complete. Even if you lay new pipes all the way through, which may or may not be necessary, you can still connect to the new system.
Luann, being that you're a golfer where I am not, so I don't know much about it, but let me ask you a question. If you were not going to do this, what would you like to see done if you're not going to want to do the greens?
What I want to see done is to move the irrigation system up again. At the last meeting, what Roger was talking about, I suggested and we voted on the original plan for the irrigation system was to be done in 2020, 21, 22, and 23. And I suggested at the time, or made a motion, whatever, that we do the first 2 parts of it this summer in 2020 and then do half of the irrigation system in 21 and half in 22. But the longer I think about it, instead of doing these greens, I think we should just move the whole irrigation system, the last 2 parts, up to fiscal year 21, and then it's done. Then it's just completed, and then go from there.
And then possibly look at the greens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the greens.
Why would you possibly look at them later if they're not? If you're saying they're fine now?
Because we want to put the irrigation system in first. That's my point. But my point is to do.
Go ahead.
Is to do those 2 greens, and play around with the irrigation system. Then do the whole irrigation system and play around with them again is foolish. We should do the irrigation system and be done with it.
So at the risk of belaboring this, and I think Mr. Reddy chastised me last week or 2 weeks ago that we spent so much time talking about the golf. But John, how are we going to pay for this? If we move up and include this 96,000 or 93,000 plus into 2020, where is that money coming from?
May I?
Ms. Osborne would like to speak first.
Okay. Jean Osborne, 100 Cherokee. Years and years and years ago. Well, it's on. I don't know why you can't. Can you now? Yes. Well, sorry, forget how short I am. Years ago, and I can't tell you how many, I was a golfer. We had a golfing committee. One of the recommendations that was made at the time was that the greens be replaced 2 each year. We did replace, I believe it was 13, and moved it out of where it was and put it at a different site. You have a professional who you pay. He has recommended strongly that you replace and work on these 2 greens. I really wish you would go ahead and get with the job. Thank you.
Okay, to answer your question, it depends on how many other projects we accomplish. If we accomplish everything that we have talked about, we're going to, as discussed in January, requires us to do some short-term financing. So technically, if everything was accomplished, this would up the financing slightly. The odds of everything being accomplished is not too high, but the big question mark that staff is on staff's mind right now is what's Building A bid's going to come in at. We've seen bids come in really high in the past, so we could use our cash reserves, or our cash reserves may all go towards other projects. A lot of it's so it all depends. If that is not the best government answer, I don't know what I can do.
We haven't approved anything for Building A yet, have we? No. Or the lounge, rather, I mean. No, good. Mr. Chairman, I mean, you got differences. You know, you had the presentations. You've had the information. I think you just call the vote, up and down vote.
Okay, we got another. Just wait.
Hi, my name is Bernie Silveria. I live at 964 Cashew Circle. My question to you, Mike, is how much money do we lose a year on the golf course?
Do we lose a year?
Do we lose money on the golf course every year?
We don't lose money. We put money into it because it's an amenity.
You put it where?
It's an amenity, like the pool, like so we put
Okay.
money into it.
From what I've read, that we have had losses at the golf course. Okay, what I'd like to see is an irrigation system put in before you put new greens in. Doesn't that you're like putting the carrot before the horse?
No, not at all.
Okay, well, how are you going to irrigate? What are you going to irrigate these two greens and not the other ones? It makes no sense to spend money on two new greens without an irrigation system. As he said, you know what? Can we bring these greens back up with an irrigation system working properly on watering, even if we configure it so we do these greens that need to be fixed with irrigation? It's possible that they can come back. So why can't we give that a chance before spending $100,000 on two new greens without irrigation? Answer my question on that. I mean, that makes more sense to put irrigation in first. Mike, I know you're a golfer. I'm a golfer. I understand what the greens are. Okay, I play here. Okay, can I play here if the greens are watered and taken care of, aerated, seeded, in a year's time, instead of spending $100,000 and having the greens, the temporary greens put in? Why don't we put irrigation in, fix the greens with bringing them back up? Instead of new greens right away. We can do this down. We've gone through a lot of stuff. We have a lot on the agenda that we haven't. Building A, the lounge. Now we're throwing $100,000 into this. It makes no sense. I've been coming here for 2 years, listening to the rhetoric, and nothing's getting done. You want to spend another $100,000 doing this without addressing Building A and the lounge area first, which was addressed way before this. And that's my point.
Thank you. Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Would you like to repeat that motion again? What do you want to do?
No, I'm sorry. I move that we accept the recommendation of staff.
I'm looking for a second.
He had seconded it already.
He seconded it for discussion, but
No, he seconded the motion, then you discuss after you second the motion, and then you vote on it.
I know that. Okay, Roger made the second. So all in favor of that motion with a voice count? Roger?
No.
Mino?
Yes.
Luann? No. Motion fails. Now what, Isaiah, you wanted to make a motion, Luann? What is is that covered?
I make a motion that we do not, we're not replacing screens. We move the irrigation system up to FY 20 and 21. That we do 2 phases of the irrigation system this summer, and the rest of it, then put actually the irrigation system in next year, 21.
I need a second.
Okay, so again, I'll second it for the sake of discussion. What are we going to spend in 2020 for that part of the irrigation? What's currently in the budget, Luann?
I don't know. I should know, but I don't. I don't. John? I think it was 60,000 for their satellite boxes, which was phase one, and I'm pretty sure that was 60,000.
Yeah.
And then the planning stage, we have, because there was already $75,000 on the books to do the lake banks, which are
We pulled back out. We pulled that out.
We took that off the table, but we can. But I think it was $40,000 for the planning. So it's $100,000 that we have at this point to stop this summer.
Yes, she's correct about that. And then we have two different concepts for the heads. The standard head that we have has been quoted out at about $500,000. That requires the 60,000 satellites. There's a next generation of heads that don't require the satellites, but they cost about $700,000. It's sort of, do you buy new or do you buy used type of. It is possible to do all the irrigation next year, but I think you're back into borrowing more money to do both phases of the irrigation next year.
Depending on the lounge and building A.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the potential to do all of the irrigation and also pull in the rebuild on some greens, right? After that, if we can expedite and get the irrigation system done, I think largely, and some of the residents have already made comment, it just makes sense. It doesn't feel right to rebuild greens when we know we're going to come along and we need additional or repairs and updates to our irrigation. I think it just goes counterintuitive to what most people think. I'm all for doing both of them, and I'd like to expedite both of them, but I just think there's an order that we do them in.
Any other discussion? There was a motion made with a second. Again, all in favor of that motion, voice vote. Roger?
Yes.
Mr. Mino?
No.
Luann? Yes. It passes 3-1. Motion passes 3-1. Yeah. Okay. Next is Lake Lounge Lakeside Expansion Design Proposal. John?
Previously, there's been multiple discussions. Hello? Previously, there have been multiple discussions regarding the expansion of the lounge and expansion of the lakeside. Hello? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay. Previously, there have been multiple discussions about expanding the lounge, expanding the lakeside. At the recent meeting, the board instructed staff to proceed with obtaining a design for expansion of the lakeside area with an additional outside bar and enclosing part of the northern part of the building to have a food prep and storage area. Last month, Mr. Getz and Ms. Mendes walked the area with the design team, and we discussed various options. The focus, it was about a 2-hour meeting because we talked various options and costs because I'm not trying to sound negative, but in the past we can expand concepts real easy and then it gets to the price we can't afford it. So We discussed options with the design team to keep this within our existing budget. And the proposal before the board would design it in 2 phases. The easiest way to describe it is phase 2 would construct the outside bar on the south side of the lounge and do the northern expansion, and then everything else would be done in phase 1. Basically, to summarize, I won't try to compare and contrast because I think saying that gets confusing, but basically this would take the steps that go down back of the smoking pit and fill that in, because that would cost less money than to take the entire paver area to the west. Remove all the existing concrete and put in sloped drainage, little French drains every so often, so when it rains hard there's not puddles, and a cool deck treatment versus the pavers. Relocate the heater from a building to an outside unit out in the grass on the west side of the lounge area, and then put a wraparound aluminum canopy on the west and south sides. The aluminum canopy would have the appearance similar to carports in Barefoot Bay. It wouldn't be the arched type of canopies that are there now. And the reason we settled on the pre-engineered aluminum design like a carport is the cost factor, because we believe we can do all this for around $1 million, where if we start going to the west or having arched canopies, the cost goes up dramatically. So therefore, we do have funding in the budget for this design, and Mr. Getz, Ms. Mendez, myself can answer any questions you have. We recommend approval of the design.
I didn't touch it. This $1 million. This is the whole schmear, right? The outdoor bar and the food prep area and all. This is everything, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
I'll say, Rich Swatlow, 636 Marlin Circle. I realize I come up here and I speak a lot, but I think this is a democracy, and as first in democracy, we should try to take a greater partake in our form of government. And I wish other people would speak. I know sometimes you get tired, but I do like to try to give a positive aspect to our community. Basically what they're talking about is that this form that's an extension of the small minutes that you got. And it's basically saying that they're going to be spending $95,905 just for the blueprints, just for the plans. They're going to be spending $1 million additional dollars to actually do the construction. This first started with a plan from Luann that's called BASIC, a basic plan. Now we're up to over $1 million for this basic plan, and $95,000 just for the blueprints. The only other thing I really have to say is that, again, I hope the board will be speaking about the name of the facility contest before the end of this meeting. Thank you.
Chair looking for a motion to entertain a motion?
So what about some discussion first?
We make a motion, then do the discussion on the motion.
All right. In order to have discussion, I'll make a motion we accept this proposal.
And I'll second that for discussion.
Go ahead.
I think that, Rich, I think that nobody is tired of hearing you speak, because sometimes you speak loudly and clearly. I also think that this is sort of a simplified version of what I was talking about. When I said basic, I think this is even more basic than what I was talking about originally. It's not as a large an area as I was talking about, but I think this is a doable situation. $1 million. And to tell, before you start to speak, just let me say, I had no idea how much it was going to cost, because I was asked that, and I said at the time, for what I was proposing, I had not one clue how much money it was going to cost. And so from this, it seems like that was more expensive than what this is. So
I'm not against the board moving forward. I'm not against the board moving forward. We have to do things. I just want the Bay to realize this is not a cheap basic program. We're going to be spending $1 million on the lounge. We're going to be spending $1 million on Building A. But no one even wants to think about new construction. Instead of keep on band-aiding old buildings, as soon as you talk about new construction, oh my God, let's just keep throwing the band-aids on. But the Bay's got to do something. Thank you.
So what you want us to do is not fix up the old buildings. You want us to build on new buildings. Is that what you're saying?
I like to see you maintain the buildings. My concept is basically build a new building over in the new lot. That building would take would take over the aspects of what Building A does as far as dinners and shows. The new Building A could be turned into a new lounge. It's got a stage, it's got a bar, a small kitchen. The current lounge could be made into a specialty building. The pool tables could go in there, the TVs, and make it into a specialty lounge. Building C, where the pool tables are now, could be turned into a separate meeting room. By building a new building over in Building C, you would over at the shopping plaza, you would not interfere with the operation of the lounge and Building A while you're doing construction, and then you could repurpose Building A and the lounge. Maintain what you have, but also think about what we can do for the future. 10 years down the line, what would be the best for the Bay, instead of just thinking about tomorrow. I know it's going to cost at least $4 million for the new building, but you're going to be spending $2 million trying to adapt what we have to what's not really going to be working perfectly anyways. Thank you. You've been very patient.
Actually, you'll be spending more money, but what are you going to do with Building A that's there exists now? What are you going to do with that? You got to do the maintenance and repairs on that, so you're going to cost you more.
I'm just trying to say, all the buildings in the Bay are basically 50 years old. They were built by Avatar basically just to get people into the Bay to buy houses. They weren't made to be here for 50 years. And the Bay's done a good job to maintaining them. But like you said, the lounge sits 100 people under shelter right now. The Building A only sits like 200 at tables. We have up to 10,000 people here at some times. It's just a fact we have to keep on saying, an old car, no matter how much you repair the old car, eventually you have to buy a new one that's better adapted to your lifestyle. I just feel that a new building with a new kitchen, a new stage that could fit 400 people in it would be a much better idea for the future than keep on trying to just repair.
But you said you're going to want to have the lounge done with pool tables and all that stuff. So where do you plan on putting the lounge?
The lounge would be part of Building A. A's already got a music stage. It already can fit 200 people, which is what we want the lounge extension to do. So Building A would still hold 200 people.
But to make them lounge, you're going to have to put more. You're going to spend money in there also, and it'll probably wind up costing close to $1 million also. If I'm not the thing, but you're going to have to do the engineer design on that again. TLC out to do all that stuff and what you want in there. So in that kitchen, you're going to have to repair that kitchen. So in other words, you're back where square one. Plus, you're going to build a building over here to make this as Building A. And with all your entertainment and everything going on, you're going to spend close to $5 million here with everything.
Okay, just go on. Don't want to take a lot of time, but my basic concept was to raise the fees $10 for 1 year. And then after that, just raise the fees $1 or more for the future. $10 fee would raise $1.3 million to the board's budget. That could pay for everything that's done. I know people say, oh, but we can't raise the fees $10 from 70 to 80 and then raise them $1 a year after that. But we could make adjustments for the people that really couldn't afford it. But a $10 increase would give us that $1.3 million. We wouldn't have to worry about bonds. We wouldn't have to worry about borrowing money. The money would be there for us to do this new construction and get the new construction right and keep up the old buildings. We need a workshop. I mean, you guys do a great job, but you come to a meeting, you're here for an hour, you can't talk to each other. It's hard for the Bay to have this give and take with you and try to come up with alternative concepts. But no, there are a lot of ideas out there. I know it takes money. But even they say 4 people can't afford it. Okay, we have 500 people that can't pay the extra $10 a month. The board has the ability to make adjustments. So instead of having $1.3 million extra a year, we only have an extra $1 million for the people that can't really afford it. But when they move away, the new people come in, and they have to realize this is the new fee. There's ways to talk about it and to adjust it, to try to get a newer, better bay, instead of just keep running an old car. An old car eventually is going to just fall apart no matter how much you try to repair it. Thank you.
Okay,
Again,
but I believe that what you're talking about, you're really putting the cart before the horse right now also, because you're going to be having the project over here. You're going to want the Building A project. You're going to do the lounge project and everything. That is going to cost money.
You do the new construction first. Get that completely out of the way. Then you do Building A.
Well, you're going to have about close to $4 to $5 million under this project here by the.
Yes,
you want to
but
put
you'll
it,
be raising $1.3 million a year to help pay for that. But okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Board, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, if I might say a word or two. Our proposal split up into Phase 1 and Phase 2. And, if I look at Phase 1, basically we're talking about moving a pump house, doing some concrete work, and putting up awnings. And all of those things would be great. Those things would all improve and enhance the deck area. But the project started out 2 years ago as some kind of an expansion to the lounge. And as a frequent user of the lounge, in fact, you may call me. I am to the lounge what Trustee Mino is to the golf course, probably. The plan that we've got proposed there, as far as Phase 1, really doesn't add anything to a person's lounge experience when you go to the lounge. It really includes very little of what was discussed in the workshop. There is no additional space. There's no additional dance room. There's no improved view of the outside deck lake area from the lounge. It doesn't open up and allow the party to grow from the lounge out into the covered area. I don't believe that this will bring any additional people or any added revenue to the lounge. And again, I'm referring to Phase 1. The open awnings that we're talking about, they won't provide any real protection from when the rain blows sideways. They won't help us on a cold night when the breeze is blowing and people are wanting to sit outside and still feel a part of what's going on in the lounge. Again, most of that area is already covered with awnings and the sail. So I don't see the immediate value in that Phase 1 part of that project as it's stated right now. I think down the road it might be good. It might be a good phase if there was something that we were going to be added to it, if there's a Phase 3 there somewhere that's going to be added. So I'm not a big fan of the Phase 1 program the way that it's currently laid out for us. I will say Phase 2, where we're going to add a food prep area, we're going to add the little outside bar to the lounge. I think that this has a potential to generate additional revenue for the lounge. I think it enhances the experience when you come to the lounge. You get there, you're there a little bit early. There'll be additional food selections there. So I think that Phase 2 isn't a bad thing, and I think it probably cost-wise, I think Phase 2 probably is going to cost less than to try to implement Phase 1, and may be helpful this year as we try to spend some of the other money in some other areas that may open up some additional funding for us. So I know that there's a motion on the floor right now, but once that motion is resolved, I'd like to come back and talk about the possibility of at least postponing Phase 1 and moving on Phase 2 initially. So those are my thoughts.
Roger, I think that I understand what you're saying, but I think they're talking about filling in those steps, which would open that area up for more chairs and whatever, and taken the heater building down, that's going to open that whole area up.
Oh, I understand.
And filling in the pit. I mean, that's going to open up that whole area.
But my point is, and I said initially that's a great project to do to enhance the deck area, but it doesn't do anything for the individuals who are coming to be part of whatever activity is going on in the lounge. On Monday, when we have our St. Patty's Day and we use a lot of deck area, it would be nice to have that additional area. But on a Monday night, or rather a Tuesday night for karaoke, a Wednesday night for trivia, a Friday night to come inside and dance to the music, those sort of things, it's phase one doesn't help that.
So Al, the phase one also has the aluminum canopy. Can't we add those? Well, I can't even think those blinds or whatever.
Drop downs.
No drop downs. Can't we add the drop downs to that?
Well, we
I mean, is
could, but they're not included as
Well, they're
the
not
project currently
well,
sits.
no, they're not included
and
right
they're
now.
very expensive too. I don't know that that's something we'd want to try to accomplish in that
Well,
single
then
phase.
what are you saying? What do you want to do? You want us to bail out of the whole thing? I mean, is that
No.
what you're saying?
No, I'm recommending that we move forward with phase two, and then we look at phase one and maybe enhance phase one a little bit with the things that you're talking about, the drop downs and a couple of additional improvements. I just don't like it the way it is. I don't think it helps us a whole lot the way it currently is.
Well,
We've
may-
already
may-
got awnings out there.
Okay, well, maybe we should table it.
Okay, actually, I haven't heard from Mr. Mayo. What is his view?
Well, again, you hear that? To a certain degree, I agree with Roger. I was for something to look at to put something up, but again, when you look at the cost, the total cost of what we're doing here, I'm just not sure I'm in favor of this whole project.
Hi, Bernie Silveria, 964 Cashew Circle. We've been discussing this proposal for 2 years, and all I've seen is wheels spin, and nothing happened, okay? It was proposed 2 years ago. I was at the meeting, and I'm sitting here and watching this. How many people have bid on that $85,000, $95,000 bid to give you conceptuals and drawings for the project?
We don't seek bids on design. We have a continuing
Why?
service. We have a continuing services contract with the design team.
That seems awfully expensive for this type of project. Okay, for $1 million project, you're spending 10% on a conceptual. And does this include mechanical drawings throughout? Or is this just a conceptual?
Just one moment. I'll take you right to the bid, the proposal. There's the breakout of the costs.
Phase one at 51,000. So, if we do phase one and do this, split it up. Do it 1 year at a time. Instead of doing everything at once, do phase two next year. Push it off. Okay, just like everything else, you guys are trying to throw everything into the pot. Okay, and that's not working. Phase one, let's get it done. We've talked about doing the lounge area for a long time. Let's get rid of the heater building. Get that out of the way. Fill in the smoking area. Let's get that project done. Moving the stage from the awful spot that it's in right now over towards the north, centralized, instead of having it in a corner, which I don't know where that came from. I said something about this at a previous meeting. Okay, that is the most terrible spot you could have put it. Okay, it should be where the bar is, in between where the outside band plays, pretty much centered in that area. You know, I've been in construction for my whole life. Okay, I look at things in a structural way, and you know, if it was kitty cornered because the sales are in the way, and that's what I've heard was the issue. Well, the sales should have been moved from where they are to another location Okay, you know, you guys need to step this up. Let's get this done. I'm tired of talking and listening to everybody spinning the wheels and nothing going on in 2 years now. Okay, let's get something done. Okay, do phase 1. Do it. Instead of going, well, we could do phase 2 first or phase 1 first, let's put something on the table and get it done.
Hi, Cindy Johnson, 1143 Tequesta Drive. The proposal that I thought was supposed to have come back to us was to include the drop-down, roll-down shades, whatever you want to call them, so that we could put heaters out in the cooler weather and have an outdoor entertaining space per se to increase the expansion, not an expansion per se of the lounge, but for more people to enjoy the outside with the drop-down shades and heaters. And you open those doors up like they do now on a Friday night, and you've got that whole entertaining area. So I am totally for what's on the table, but to have them come back and give us a price for the drop-down shades on the northwest side, I guess it would be, like we had discussed, Luann. Right?
To be honest, if I had my druthers, I'd have them all. I would have them on all sides.
Oh yeah, all sides would be
But,
perfect.
yeah.
But if we couldn't do that initially, if they could at least put them on the northwest
Right.
side, and like Bernie had mentioned, where that stage is currently over in the southwest corner, that can be moved over closer to the lounge area and utilized. And with the new pavers or whatever, I don't remember what they were called, that they're planning on putting down, those are supposed to be better for those that wish to dance, so that you're not on a hard concrete paver. My opinion. I say we move forward.
Thank you. Okay, what's the board's wishes?
Can I ask you again, what are we talking about we think the total cost of this is, or we don't know until we get the site plan, or what?
No, we believe it's $1 million, $750,000 for phase 1, $250,000 for phase 2. Remember, this is just design work. The work will not take place, any work will not take place till summer of 21.
Again,
Well, these two, excuse me, Joe, these two phases were to be done the same year, right? I mean, isn't that how, what this says? I mean,
It all depends on how much money you want to borrow.
Well,
We have a limited amount of money, and everybody wants their projects
No,
done.
I understand that. Now, I'm not trying to be a wise guy. I'm just saying although it says phase 1 and phase 2, it is in fact all 1 year, all for 1 year, right?
I'm working on doing them in 2 years because previous motions was to move the irrigation up. If the board wants to up the amount of the bank loan for next year, we can do this all in 1 year. In the past, the board has been reluctant to take out large financing. That's the problem when you talk one project at a time. There's all these other projects out there that people forget about.
Right. Well, I don't remember. Did I make the motion? Right now, I think that we should do phase 1 first. And, this year, whatever year this is, next year, whatever year it is, but do phase 1, get that organized, get that going, and then do phase 2 at the next year, the next fiscal year. I think I made a motion. Do I have to make
What is
another
your
motion,
motion,
or what are we
Luann?
doing?
What is your motion?
You want to make another motion? I'll make a
Do the
motion.
Do that first, phase 1?
The motion is to approve his recommendation.
Right, that was the original one, so we could
And
discuss
that
it.
recommendation is based on this total proposal.
Right, that was so we could have a discussion. Now we've had the discussion. Now, do I take it off the table?
So You can't.
Okay, I can recall my motion.
You can withdraw your motion if you would like to.
I would like to withdraw the motion and make another one. I make a motion that we go ahead with phase 1, and then at in the next fiscal year do phase 2.
Your motion is as far as the design work. You don't want to approve the design work for phase 2
Yeah,
this year.
I thought we're talking about
all right,
design.
all right. So what do you want? So wait a minute. You want me to approve the? You want me to make a motion to approve the design work? Is that what you want me to do?
vote.
I'm not sure what.
No, I was seeking clarification because what the proposal is for you is to do the design work for the project broken into 2 phases. There's been discussion about not doing the design work for both of it, and there's been discussion about doing the design work for phase 2 first with the intent of doing that project next summer and phase 1 later. So I was just seeking clarification.
I'll try this one more time. Make a motion that we do the design work for phase 1 and get on with it, and get on with that. Does that make sense? I'm not really sure what I'm... Do the design work, and then do the design. I mean, then do the work. Is that what I'm doing? Is that... Right, and then get... Right, I think that's what I'm saying.
The essence of this is you're voting to approve the design work. Next month, you'll start reviewing the proposed budget, and that's where the money will be or won't be for the actual work. So,
Okay, so you want me to make a motion to approve this site work?
The
Make-
design work, yes.
Design. God.
For a total amount.
Okay, I made that motion.
Is that sufficiently
I
clear?
need a second. There was this. Who made the second?
So if nobody seconds this motion to do the design work, then this just falls through the cracks again. Is that right?
I'd like to propose another motion. If we want to do phase 1 first, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with
We don't
phase
want
1
to do phase
design
second.
work,
It's just a design.
but
Then
I'll wait on
Roger's
Chairman
making another-
Klosky.
You got it? All right.
Can, wait,
How was yours different than mine? How was yours different?
It's a little different. It's a little different.
it appears, just to pause the proceedings for 1 second, it appears that the first motion died for lack of a second. That's what it
No.
appeared.
The first motion that she withdrew.
No,
that-
she withdrew it, and then she tried to make a second
Right, that died for
motion
lack of a
that
second,
seems
yes.
to have died for lack of a second. Now Mr. Compton is making a third motion, and can we just get a clarification on that motion, please?
I'll give it my best shot. So my motion would be that we move forward with phase 1. However, the design should also include the drop downs as well as opening up those walls that face that side of the building so that you can freely see and move in and out from the lounge into that additional area that's added.
you would be better to just reject this proposal because you're going to have a substantial change order coming back for the
Yeah,
design.
it's going to be total different cost.
Cindy Johnson, 1143 Tequesta. We have already in the past talked about removing walls, structures, etc. And we've spun our wheels on that. And we have had meetings regarding the proposal that is in front of us. So why can't we today move forward? Approve what is in front of us, and with the exception of adding the pull down, shades, whatever you want to call them, and also approve the work to be done. Then we can move to the second phase. But let's get the first phase done as soon as possible. The funds are there. And we've been waiting for this for a long time. A long time. And it's time we move forward. I am very passionate about this and the Bay. So let's please get it done.
Well, nothing to say. I just want to pass this over to you.
While folks are thinking, I'll just talk about the drop downs because I think there's a little misunderstanding. As I told some of the trustees before this meeting, I purposely left the drop downs off the design because if we put the drop downs in the design, the general contractor will take 10-15% profit on top of the cost to install the drop downs. We can easily contract afterwards with a company that installs drop downs. An example is the much last year beat upon me about the generator in the administration building. The design team could have put it in the plans at a cost of $75,000. It would have not had an automatic shutoff. It had been situated between the two trees. I opted to do that afterwards because you usually get like long warranties with generators. I want the warranty through the person who installs the generator, not the contractor who may be out of business down the road. When we contracted with Complete Electric to put the generator in, not only did it cost substantially less than $75,000, but it came with an automatic turn on and off, and it didn't have to install conduit to the building. It was tied into the transformer. So sometimes you get better and cheaper service if you don't bundle every single thing into a big contract you give a general contractor.
So let's do it and put down shades into it.
Just a quick comment about the idea of opening up the south side into some kind of a slider. And we did discuss that with the design team, so I don't know if it was omitted or I missed something, but they were going to include that.
I'm sorry, Ms. Mendez, you said so that is going to be part of what we have in
Well,
this
we did
phase
talk
one.
about that, yes, opening up that door that exists currently on the south side, making it a little larger so that that was more of an indoor-outdoor opening similar to the southwest side.
Otherwise, you're out there and you have no clue what's going on in the lounge. You're in a separate
That's
place.
open a little wider. There is a nice view throughout that area.
Okay, so given what I hear from Ms. Mendez and the understanding from Mr. Coffey that it was in the plan not to have the contractor quote the drop downs, that it would be something we would add on later, then I'll support and make a motion that we follow through with the plan that we have here that's been presented.
Phase one or both of them or what?
Both.
Make a motion to approve the design phase of this.
Okay, I'll try again. I'll make a motion that we approve the design phase of this.
I'll second that. Whatever that meant, I'll second it.
That's good.
What is the motion? There was two just made. What is the motion?
The motion was to accept the proposal as presented.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, say with a voice vote.
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
Just to clarify, Ms. Henderson was the second on that motion, is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The DOR violation 19-004998, 602 Seagull Drive. Anyone in the audience to represent this property? Okay. Rich?
Hi, Cliff. Rich Armington, Resident Relations HR Manager. DOR violation 19-004998. Article 2, Section 3A, landscaping and privacy material. First violation occurred on 12/10/2019. 8 follow-ups and pictures have been done since the first violation. Staff has signed affidavit of notices and attached 4 pictures. Respondent has been notified by first-class mail, certified mail, and the property has been posted. Staff recommends that BOT refer this violation to General Counsel Repinger for legal action, equitable, or other appropriate action with failure to comply. If the BOT brings any such action to enforce the DOR, the charge for such action shall be charged to the respondent's account and shall constitute as a lien.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out Mr. Armington and his staff. If you'll notice, the first violation was observed December 2019. This isn't because it got lost in the file, but this is an example of how Rich and his staff do everything humanly possible to work with people before bringing it to the point that we hand it off to Mr. Repinger.
You done, Rich? You done?
Yes.
Need a motion?
I make a motion that we refer this violation to the General Counsel, Repinger, for legal action, equitable, or other appropriate action with failure to comply.
Second? Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, DOR violation 19-005046-947 Jacaranda Drive. Anybody in here to represent that property? Go ahead. Nobody.
DOR violation to Article 3, Section 10, and Section D, condition of skirting. First violation occurred on 12/13/19. 7 follow-ups and pictures have been done since the first violation. Staff has signed affidavit of notices and attached 4 pictures. Respondent has been notified by first-class mail, certified mail, and the property has been posted. Staff recommends that the BOT refer this violation to General Counsel Repinger for legal action, equitable, or other appropriate action with failure to comply. If the BOT brings any such action to enforce the DOR, the charge for such action shall be charged to the respondent's account and shall constitute as a lien.
Chair will entertain a motion.
I move we accept that recommendation.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next, discussion of combining lots as permitted under the DOR. And Mr. Compton's put this on the agenda, so would you like to speak on that?
Sure. So, it became practice here in Barefoot Bay some years ago, and I'm not sure when, that if we purchased 2 adjoining lots and we built some type of a structure across both of those, we could reduce, and instead of paying 2 assessments per year, we would only pay the one assessment as though we had one parcel or one lot or one property. Since 2010, I believe the information I've got is that we have combined 15 lots with other lots. My concern, and the reason I bring this up for discussion, is we see something happen in our neighborhood, and that is that we have bigger homes coming in. We have a lot of people who want larger lots, so they buy another lot, they build a garage or whatever on it, and that's great. Unfortunately, this has an impact on all of us because their gain is our loss, because the budget doesn't go down when we combine lots. The budget stays the same. It only gets spread around a larger group of us. And maybe there were 15 in the past 10 years. There may be 30. There may be 40 in the next 10. I just don't know. But I felt like it was something that needed to be discussed, because we have to sometimes look at our policies today to see how they may affect the community in the years down the road. There is a misconception here in Barefoot Bay with a group of people. We think that assessment that we pay yearly is what allows us our social membership fees, and that's incorrect. The assessment that we pay is effectively the tax that's paid here in the community to allow the business of the district to be conducted, to allow the facilities, the common facilities, the grounds to be maintained. It's the tax we pay, just like we pay ad valorem taxes to the county. It's taxes we pay like in any community that we've ever lived in. There was various types of, whether it's sales tax, employment tax, ad valorem taxes, it required taxes to maintain that community. And that's what we pay with that assessment. So I'm asking for input from the trustees to see how they feel about it, to see if we want to make a change to that policy.
What?
I saw Kate made up figures. They say we have 20 or 30 double lots out there. I hate to see made up figures. When you say there's 20 or 30, maybe double lots are still to be sold out there. I don't think we have that many lots that are double lots or two lots beside each other that could be combined in double lots. I don't think it's really a question that really the Bay should really be concerned on, because there aren't that many double lots left to sell. Lots have been in the past have been sold and houses been on. Those houses should be grandfathered in because they were built at a time when those rules, but we don't have that many double lots left.
Yeah, so let me clarify. I would not be in favor of any change that would not grandfather in people who had already combined lots. And quite frankly, I believe if you already own a lot next door to you, that you probably bought that lot under this expectation of being able to combine it at some time, and I would want to grandfather those in too. What I'm looking at are those lots that are bought in the future, and I don't know what that number is that are available out there.
That's my question. Why are we even bringing this up if we don't know if it's really a concern?
Well, because it won't be a concern until 10 years from now when we look back and we realize that, hey, because of this policy, we now, our assessment fees have went up considerably because we've combined a number of lots. We've got people spending a lot of money here now. You've already probably, or very will soon, see people buying properties next to them, tearing down the old house that's there just so they can have a second lot to expand their new home and their garage on top of.
Yes, but that's a different question. That's someone tearing down the house next to them. But how many properties do we actually have in the Bay that are side by side that are up for sale? Why are we discussing something if it's not really a problem?
Well, the district's about to auction off 12
Double
ourselves.
lots?
No, single lots.
Yeah.
Single lots.
We're talking about double lots. How many of them are there actually?
No, I think you're misunderstanding the issue. A combined lot or a double lot is where there is a single lot. They purchase the lot next door to it. They combine them through the district, and they call them one lot rather than two. So instead of paying one assessment or special recreational tax, instead of paying two rather for both lots, now they're only paying one, and you and I are paying the other one.
I agree with you. I see your point. Someone has a house, they buy the lot next to it, and then you combine them. I see your point. I was just wondering, I was like, if there actually were just two lots that were separate.
The only people who pay for two lots is if they put their home on both lots. It stretches over both lots. That's how you get the two.
No, the way we've interpreted that, it's not that simple. You can put a breezeway over to a small
to a garage or something.
To a garage or small shed.
Yeah.
Tom Nelson, is that on? Tom Nelson, 108 Waterway Drive. I saw Mr. Compton's poll that was posted on Facebook, and there was two options, which was continue the way we are or stop what we're doing. And I think there's a third option, which is in the future, if someone wants to put a home across two lots, then they should pay two fees. The way I understand how this came about was the lots now, even though they're combined, what that technically means, from my understanding, is the combination was done through the county, which allowed the person that combined the lot to cross the easement between the two lots. But if you go to the Registry of Deeds in the county, it's still two platted lots. So somewhere in the administration in our office here at Barefoot Bay, someone made the decision to charge only one fee. Technically, if I remember Mr. Reppinger's statement in the past, this is still two lots. So it wasn't a county that made this decision. It was Barefoot Bay that made that decision. So from my perspective, I think going forward that you should, in fact, be allowed to get the two lots, be allowed to combine the lots to cross the easement, with the understanding that if you cross that easement, they could come in and just rip out your house if they needed to, because it's still an easement and that easement still exists. But if they want to do that going forward, I would grandfather in the people that exist, and then going forward, I would say the people have to pay two prices. For the exact reason that Mr. Compton said, we lose when they gain, and I don't think that's right for the Bay and for all the folks that live here in the Bay. And I would also make sure that we're clear as to what constitutes combining the lots, meaning this. Is it a house that has to go across the two, or is it just a sidewalk? Because I noticed a lot the other day where somebody just put in a walkway down the side of their house, and I haven't looked up the details, but I believe that they combined the lots and for the purpose only of saving the fee. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will mention, too, if you go to the charter and you look at our original charter, it makes a statement there that each parcel of property in the district is hereby declared to be uniformly benefited by the service of the district. It doesn't say that each resident benefits equally. It says that each parcel within the district benefits equally. So when we combine parcels for assessment purposes, then we're not holding true to that interpretation of the charter or that statement in the charter. So, barring further discussion from the trustees, I'll make a motion. My motion is that moving forward for assessment purposes, we do not any longer combine lots. However, if you currently have a combined lot, or if you own a lot already, which is next to you, in which you probably had planned to combine at some point, then those would be grandfathered in. That way we do not affect anyone who is currently a property owner here in the Bay, but at the same time we protect ourselves going into the future against the potential that we could have a lot of people moving in and wanting those bigger pieces of property to build on and to do things with. That would be my motion.
Can we do this, make a motion just on discussion items like this and just go up?
I don't think that the motion is valid based on its content, because I think what the issue is here is that you have the DOR dictating what is allowable.
Yeah, I understand. I'm sorry. It would have to go in front of the community as a change to the deed of restrictions.
If that's the motion, is to propose a DOR amendment to amend the charter, then
Yes.
then that's an acceptable motion.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Cliff, would it be an option to, if the ARC inserted a definition of home or structure in the guidelines versus a DOR amendment?
Well, here's your problem. Your problem is under the definition section of the deed of restrictions, section 7, which is Article 1, it defines lot. And it says lot means any lot of record appearing on any of the recorded plats of Barefoot Bay enumerated in the recitals of this instrument. If any manufactured or modular home has been placed on two adjacent platted lots in a manner such that the home is located across the platted boundary for such platted lots, the two platted lots shall be treated as a single lot for purpose of this instrument.
And that's what I said earlier.
So that's the definition. Now, there may be an interpretation that the guidelines have about how that works as far as the home being located across the platted boundary. But barring that interpretation, the DOR goes on to set out the appropriateness or the authority for the assessment, and that is under Section 4 of Article 4. And in that section, it says all lot owners, and then it talks about the assessment. And so, if you have a single lot as defined, and then you can assess as to that lot, you'd have to amend the DOR to take away or at least grandfather in existings and then stop that practice moving forward if you wanted to.
Yes, I understand that this is something that would have to come before the community as a vote on the change to the DOR.
I just think, again, I'm not in favor of this at all, and I just think it needs a lot more study than what we're doing right here for a 5-minute discussion of something that we're just seeing. I'm not in favor of this.
Now, again, not to complicate your discussion, but in response to Mr. Coffey's question, if there was an ARC guideline that defined what that being located across the lots is, that might accomplish something as far as how it's interpreted moving forward. So, I mean, that could get you to a place that works, but the ARC would have to make that interpretation.
That was going to be my suggestion, that this really has to go back to the DOR for an amendment to the DOR. It's not appropriate to be voted on.
Tom Nelson, 108 Waterway Drive. I think what is appropriate is the comment that Roger brought up, and to determine if, in fact, the board is in favor of a referendum to the DOR to change the wording such that we address the issue of the fees. My additional question to Attorney Reppinger is, the DOR, I believe, states home across two lots. So if it states home, if those folks that have built a walkway and a garage, does that qualify as home?
Well, the way that it's worded, it says, if any manufactured or modular home has been placed on two adjacent platted lots in a manner that such home is located across the platted boundary between the platted lots, the two platted lots shall be treated as a singular lot. So how that is defined as far as the home being located, that, again, it could be an interpretation of the ARC, and I think there may I don't know if that's in the guidelines or not. I can't recall off the top of my head.
No, it's not. But
if it's
that's
not,
the reason I'm asking the question, because I'm the chairman of the ARC committee. And this has come up before us, and we've never really had a discussion on it. But the fact of the matter is that it states specifically home. And we've had people come before the ARC committee with a plan that says, I'm going to put a walkway and put a utility shed on that second lot so I don't have to pay 2 fees. And I don't know how we should interpret that wording of lot versus home.
Well, again, I guess that's the interpretation of the committee, I would assume, and I know it's a difficult thing, but if it is strictly saying home, it's not a garage, it's not a walkway, it's not a sidewalk.
I agree with you, but that's not how it has been interpreted up to this point. And I'm new to the chairmanship of the committee, and I brought up that issue. It's it's the Bay who's issuing the fees for, our recreational fees. And I raised the issue, if it does specifically say home, we have folks, and not that I want to go after folks that have already done all this with the understanding that they won't have to pay 1 fee, but it's a clarification issue going forward. If we're going to approve a permit, we have to be able to tell the folks that bring that permit before the committee that if you're building a garage on that lot and building a walkway, that does not constitute under our DOR a single lot. That's my personal opinion at this point. We have not discussed it as a committee, so I'm not trying to interpret here for folks that that's what the committee feels. That's just my own belief.
If there was a formal, any formal amendment to the DOR is going to require not a referendum, but a mail-out ballot to the property owners of the district. So that's what would be required for a DOR amendment if we were to go in that direction. Other than that, like we've talked about, obviously there's an interpretation that's been made as far as what the home being located across the platted boundary is. And if we want to have the ARC examine that, that's something that the board could get input from the ARC on, or have the ARC revisit that concept in the guidelines. So you could have a situation where if the ARC, and maybe Mr. Armington in his infinite wisdom, much more than mine, can clarify, but if the ARC actually made a determination that the locating across a lot wouldn't include the types of things that we've talked about, like breezeways or other things, that it had to be strictly the home structure located across the platted boundary, and then grandfathering in they could possibly adopt a guideline that would require that moving forward, with a grandfathering for existing structures that have like breezeways or things that don't fully comply. So that is something that could be done from the ARC. That was a long-winded answer, but I think I
Mr. Revenue, I remember somewhere back, you were already here. I recall back a couple of years, I don't know how long ago it was, I was on the board, much thing there, and you were here too also, that we discussed something about this combination of the lots, whatever it was, and I know there was a resolution made, something on that. I can't recall when it was, but I do recall that I voted against it because I didn't think it was fair. But I can't remember when the year it was. Do you recall that at all?
Off the top of my head, I have a vague recollection of this issue coming up at some point in the past. I cannot tell you off the top of my head what the resolution was or
because I know at the time when they did bring it up, they were saying, but I did say that at that time that wouldn't be unfair for the other people that do. If they combine those lots, they pay the 1 fee instead of double, and those other people that do have 2 lots, but they have a home on one side and just a regular lot, they have to pay the 2 fees. And then when they turn around, that they said it's just not the home would have to be on both lots, not just on the one according to the way it reads here. If you put a breezeway or something like that, or put a garage on their side, they figure that's considered as a home, which it isn't. And that's why at that time when it was discussed, I was totally against it, but I don't recall when it was. And Maybe
About
Louise.
5 years ago when I started, Sue told us that, because I didn't agree with, in the DOR, that just because they're going to put a sidewalk in makes it a double lot. And it probably, maybe it was right before John came here, I'm not sure. But there was a determination, she said, that even if you, no matter what you build across, if you build a deck, if you build a sidewalk, whatever you build, as long as it's across. And I think Cliff, and I actually agree with you, Cliff, that exactly all the ARC has to do is determine a home is what. And if they determine that, and I'm not going to say, but in my opinion, if it says manufactured home, it would be the two sections that they bring in is your home. Anything else is an addition to it. But I would think that the ARC, in their infinite wisdom, should be able to settle this easily.
They could.
I really, Louise Krause, 808 Sapodilla Drive. I really can't answer the question. I wished I could, but I can add to the mismatch. Several years ago, we had an individual who had a home. He bought the vacant lot. He built a garage for the purpose of restoring and repairing vehicles. And the argument that came before the board at that time was to force him to connect the roof lines. That was the entire reasoning. I'm sorry, Mr. Repinger, I don't recall ever hearing the word that he had to turn that unit into a home. The whole thing was that he had to connect the roof lines to make them adjoining across the property line. All of this talk about it now having to be a home is something really new to me, and I'm not sure where that hid when we were making that discussion before. But I think it needs to be a referendum. I don't think it's an ARC thing. This board has virtually no control over what the ARC committee decides to do, and they could do something completely in reverse of what your intention is to do, and you don't have the authority to change it. So I think if you're going to do something this wide-ranging, again, it's the opportunity for a person to buy a lot next to them and build a home across that lot, those two lots. There aren't that many open lots in Barefoot Bay, and the chance that you live in a house next to a vacant lot is pretty slim. I don't think we're talking about a wide-ranging problem. I do think it would not be appropriate to give it to the ARC for a determination. I think that would not be in your best interest in the years to come. Thank you.
Well, my issue here isn't people having two lots. It doesn't matter to me whether they've built across both of them or if they have one of them fenced in and it's a dog run for them. It's just that our tax base is limited. Our tax base doesn't go up; it only goes down as we combine lots. And you know, we hear about how a lot of people have trouble paying their assessments now, and it has a potential to be compounded by this.
You want to make a motion that we put that to a referendum?
Well, I attempted to earlier. I guess I didn't state it right. My motion would be that this goes before the community in the form of a DOR change, that we would require that you paid an assessment on each lot you own, whether that lot's next door to you or whether you own 6 lots spread across the community, that we grandfather in anyone who currently already has combined for assessment purposes, and that we also grandfather anybody in who currently has a lot that they own next door to them that has the potential for being built across.
Second.
Yeah.
That's your motion.
That's
Thing
my
to
motion.
remember, this would come back, Mr. Repinger would develop the language, and you would formally vote to put the specific language out.
I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Louise.
Just for discussion purposes, I think we're talking about $800 a year roughly that we pay as an assessment. To have a referendum, you're talking between $6,000 to $10,000. Are you doing a referendum to save money or spend money?
You know, we don't really know for sure, do we? Because we don't know what's going to happen in our community in the next 10 years.
The one referendum would be 10
Yeah,
times.
and you have an excellent point, I think. I mean, this is really not an issue. There's an issue about clarifying whether it's a home or a garage or a sidewalk, but I'm just nowhere near in favor of this.
Go ahead.
Nancy Isley, Barefoot Boulevard. I agree with Roger and what he's saying and the concept of it. And I don't think it took a referendum to change it. I think the board decided on that. But I also agree with Louise in that I don't remember this point that they brought up about a house being across there. It used to be a transit, or I never heard of a sidewalk either, but it was just a connected to it that made it into one lot. But I do agree with you, Roger, that I think it's something we need to look to the future for.
It can be dealt with either way. I mean, if you are proposing a DOR amendment, then what's that? Correct. I mean, we are putting together language that you're going to be considering as a mail out for the fining authority for the DOR. So this can be combined with that as well. When that comes back to you, this language can be included in that as a ballot question. So, I mean, it is a mail-out ballot. Don't confuse the concept of a referendum with a mail-out ballot. I mean, a referendum is a fully held referendum through the supervisor of elections on the ballot, actually on the ballot. This is more of a mail-out ballot. I'm not sure which one costs more, or how the costs relate to each other. But if you're going to do it for the DOR amendment anyway, for DOR enforcement anyway,
there's no additional cost associated, and there may be
inconsequential,
and there may be additional changes to the DOR that we want to make in the next weeks or months.
That's true too. So as you develop this language in the mail-out ballot, you can add whatever you want.
I mean, I don't see the downside of putting it out to the community, because this is, again, what benefits me if I combine a lot takes away a little bit from everybody else in the community, and I think it's worth the community having some input on it. No, I'm not changing it. I think I've got a good on the DOR on the DOR ballot. Or
the motion is to move forward with the DOR amendment, a proposed DOR amendment.
I thought he said the motion was to go to referendum.
Well, I used the wrong term. It's not a referendum that would come up in November. This is a mail out that will go out to all the property owners.
To find out what? Yeah, it was. But to find out what? What is the mail out going to find out?
My understanding of the motion, and I'll give my clarification. And
Could
Mr.
you
Compton,
make the motion for me,
Mr.
Compton?
Mr. Compton can clarify whether I'm correct or not. Is to propose a DOR amendment which would remove the dual lot provision moving forward. So. And grandfather all existing dual lots.
And so the mail-out ballot does what for that? If the mail-out ballot comes back saying yes, we think you should do it, that's not a referendum.
No, it's not. That's what I was saying. There's two different concepts. We keep messing up. Let me try to clarify. A referendum is an initiative that's actually on a formal ballot that would be voted on by the electors of the district. So a charter change, for instance, would be via referendum. A proposal to exceed the spending cap authority in the charter would be a referendum. Those type things, and those would be voted on by the electors of the district. Put that on one side. What we are talking about is a mail-out ballot proposal to change the deed of restrictions, to amend the deed of restrictions. That gets mailed to the property owners of the district of record, and each property owner gets one vote on a mail-out ballot back. So that's not a referendum, although it's a ballot question. It's not a formal referendum. It's just a ballot mail out.
Because you can put them and you could put the both of them on the same ballot when you have the finding.
The way it looks when you do a DOR amendment mail out ballot is there's multiple ballot questions. You can have as many or as few as you like, depending on how complicated or how many questions you want to propose, and you mail that out to the community and they vote, and if they vote in favor of it, the language changes are reflected on the ballot. So if they vote yes, the language is changed. If they vote no and it doesn't pass, then it's not changed and it fails.
In my opinion, it's better to do a mail-out thing because then it goes to the homeowners. If you have a referendum, anybody who lives here, rents, can vote on it. So
Right,
I think a mail-out thing is much better for the homeowners because then it's just the homeowners who get to vote on it.
Right. So there's really two options on this issue right now. And my understanding is Mr. Compton wants to move forward with the proposed language in a DOR amendment ballot, which we would bring back to you. That's my understanding. The other option is to refer it to the ARC so that the ARC can make a determination of what constitutes a home being located across the platted lot is.
So if I'm right, he wants a mail-out ballot.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
If I'm correct.
Okay, you didn't make so. Okay. Any other discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of that motion, voice vote. Roger? Yes. Mr. Mino?
No.
Luann? Yes. 3-1. Next is the Beach Prefabricated Restroom RFP Evaluation Committee recommendations.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In January, the board put out for bid a procurement of a prefabbed restroom with separate men's and women's side. We had one proposal from Leesburg Concrete, $83,929. The evaluation committee headed up by Trustee Henderson, who served as the chair, reviewed it on two different meetings, checked references, and made recommendation to award contracting for procurement and delivery to Leesburg Concrete for $83,929. I will point out, if the board approves this, I've already given preliminary scope of work to our engineering firm to generate a proposal, the development of the site plan, walking the amended site plan through the county permitting, and the specs for the septic tank and drain field. So this doesn't mean that it's going in tomorrow. It's probably the way things are going. Best case scenario, sometime in the summer. The virus goes crazy, who knows when, but this is procurement only of the structure.
Chair would like to entertain a motion. Go ahead.
Rich Watlow, 636 Marlin Circle. I went to the two beach meetings, and this $83,900 is just to have them drop down the bathroom. That's not the total cost, which they haven't mentioned what the total cost is because they don't know it. It doesn't cover the development of the site plan, removal of 16 changing rooms, or the installation of the septic tank and drain field. This is $93,000. It's just to have a bathroom drop there. It's not the total cost. So this is going to get, again, expensive. But on March 3rd, I went to the beach bathroom community meeting. I spoke to the chairman of the committee, who is a board of trustees board member. At this meeting, I asked the board member this question that I had written down. Several years ago, we went to build a bathroom at the tennis courts. It had to go out for a referendum vote to all residents because it was above the base charter requirement of a $25,000 spending cap. The referendum did not pass. At that time, the board decided to petition the courts for a clarification. As far as I know, the court have not given a final clarification, and our current legal spending cap is still $25,000. We are now going to build a bathroom at the beach for $90,000 plus. How can we do this without a referendum? The reply that I got from the board member, who is a beach chairman, was, "I do not know." The meeting lasted 1/2 hour. It was voted to pass it on to the Board of Trustees to move forward on. My new question is to the board is, how can we move forward when a board member stated, "I do not know," when asked if we need a referendum? I hope that our lawyer can give us an explanation we can all understand at this meeting.
Mr. Eppinger.
Today's word of the day is referendum. Kind of joking. So I've looked at this project, and Mr. Coffey and I communicated before today's meeting related to the project and the distinctions between this and the restroom project that was proposed for the community center years ago. And I wrote a memorandum years ago that analyzed two projects. One was the Building F building, and the other was the restroom project that was proposed at the time at the community center. In that memorandum that I wrote, I analyzed the spending cap authority in the charter and determined that the Building F project, replacement project, was outside of the cap requirement for referendum, and that in an abundance of caution, I recommended that if the board decided to move forward with the restroom project at the community center, that they put that project out for referendum. Now, the reason for that opinion was because the project that was proposed for the community center was a project that was to replace a restroom facility which had been long since removed and required a substantial amount of infrastructure improvement related to the project that didn't exist on site. At the time that I rendered the opinion, I thought it was a close call as to whether there should be a referendum or not, or whether there would be a required referendum for that project or not. But again, an abundance of caution in the memorandum, I indicated that I would suggest to the board that they should put that project out for referendum if they wanted to move it forward. When that memorandum was written, we did not have the benefit of having been sued, as we were subsequent to that memorandum being written on the Building F project. And as a result of that case, we got a little bit narrower of a clarification as far as how the spending cap authority in the charter is to be interpreted. And for those in the audience who haven't been with us for very long, I can quickly tell you that the spending cap authority in the charter essentially requires that the Board of Trustees put out for referendum any spending initiative that exceeds $25,000 or more based on its personal or tangible, real or tangible personal property components. So given the cost of this proposal, if this proposal fell within the cap requirement, a referendum would be required given the cost. Now, when the district was sued in the Ginther versus Barefoot Bay case, that case further clarified that there is a operational component related to district facilities that is exempt from the cap. There are two cases that have interpreted the cap. One of them was a case that involved the repairs to the irrigation system at the golf course. The other involved the replacement of Building F. And in both of those cases, in the first case with regard to irrigation, the circuit court found that maintenance of existing facilities is outside of the spending cap. On the second case, the court found that operational replacement of an existing facility, even if it's upgraded substantially, on district facility is outside of the cap. So applying that rationale moving forward and not having had the benefit of that opinion in the second case at the time that I wrote my memorandum, I look at this situation a little bit differently. And this case is a little bit different because you have an existing building that is located at the beach property. That building serves purposes that the new building will serve, in addition to having 2 portalet units that are closely associated with the building. They're not part of the structure, but they've been there in constant, continuous use for quite some time, in addition to that structure. This proposal, I view as a substantial upgrade, as an upgrade or replacement of that building, that set building structure, and the restroom facility, combining both into one building. And due to the fact that it is an upgrade, that it falls to, in my mind, in a similar category as the upgrade to Building F replacement on an existing facility, and additionally, because of the fact that this structure is being upgraded to improve ADA compliance at the beachfront facility, I believe that this project would be exempt and outside of the cap requirement. Just because I hold that opinion and believe that opinion, that it's outside the cap based on those cases, that doesn't mean that the board, if it wanted to, couldn't put that out for a referendum of the registered electorate if it wanted to. So if you disagree with that opinion and you look at it and you say, I really don't think our general counsel is right here, I think this would fall within the cap, you certainly could put it out for referendum. But my opinion, looking at the totality of the circumstances, the facts related, and the costs and expenses related to this project, I believe it's outside of the cap. I believe it falls within the operational exemption that the Ginther case allows the district to move forward with. And that's my opinion.
Question. Is the court case finally done? Do we have a final clarification, or is it still moving forward?
The Ginther case was rendered, I don't remember the year that I think it was 2018 was the final order, I believe. It was either 17 or 18. I believe it was 18.
But then after the Ginther case, we moved forward to get a further clarification, correct?
There was no further clarification needed. That final judgment interpreted the charter to allow the district to move forward with the Building F replacement, and that's what was done. There was no further appeal of that case.
All right, thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion.
Are we on? I would move that we would accept the recommendation for the proposal.
Second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Voice.
Aye.
Luann?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, the manager's report.
Before I get into the manager's report, I think the worst kept secret in Barefoot Bay is there's a lot of concern about events and gatherings due to the threat of spreading the coronavirus. I prepared a summary of what staff has been planning as far as operations, but clearly today and yesterday, the primary focus of many residents, I believe, is what the district is going to allow going forward. We've had some folks go so far we're supposed to be wiping cloth chairs down with bleach every time they're used, which these black chairs won't look black very long if we put bleach water on them. But I think, and this is just my opinion of our form of government, is that a person in my position without direction from the legislative body starting to decide what venues to shut down, which could be shut down for several months and necessitate long-term layoffs of staff, is something that I shouldn't be doing on my own without some guidance from the board. I have had a lot of conversations with folks. People who like music bingo say Taco Tuesday and karaoke should be shut down. People who like Taco Tuesday and karaoke say music bingo should be shut down. People who don't like folks who hang out at bars say shut down the lounge in 19th hole. So most other large cities are doing it based on size of gatherings, like Oakland, California prohibits gatherings of more than 1,000 at a time. Clearly, we don't have 1,000 people any place at one time. Our typical gatherings are under 200, 200 to 300. Street dances can sometimes be 400 or 500 people. If the board would like to give me some guidance, and also if it applies to club events, I'll implement anything you want, but if you don't want to make any decision and say it's all up to me, I'll do my best until the community runs me out of here, because no one will like my idea on my own, because I've had probably 4 comments and not one person of those 4 have agreed. So if I could get some direction. We have 2 larger events planned in the next 3 days, a street dance on Sunday and the St. Patrick's Day on Monday. Those 2 would be over 300 people in attendance. We have club events that are planned next week that are going to have probably over 150 in attendance. So I would respectfully request some direction.
Okay, board, what is
Mr. Chairman, a couple of comments. Number one, in any organization's crisis response plan, which most organizations have, you have to, I think it's very, very important that we remember that there's got to be one voice coming from the BOT and from the administration. It doesn't do anyone any good to have 2 or 3 people going out and telling different stories and different things. So number one, I think a statement has got to be put out of some kind to the people, whether it's by email or whatever. Number two, everyone is canceling the large gatherings. Even Meg O'Malley's and St. Patrick's Day, that's all been canceled now, the streets and everything. So the 2 things we have coming up are music bingo, where there's over 200 people coming up, and then the street dance. The street dance, of course, is outside. The music bingo is inside. Without going too deep, I think you do have to look at any inside gatherings of over 200 people that we run, and say maybe it's not a good idea. People have a choice of whether they want to go outside, whether they want to play tennis in a tennis tournament, they want to play golf, they want to go to a street dance. They have a choice. But to put people inside when there's over 200 is really starting to hurt other people that are concerned. I also, last thing I'll say about this, I think you have to be very, very careful that whatever we do not do something that would hurt our staff financially. People talk about closing the 19th hole, closing the lounge, doing all those kinds of things. They don't have to go there. The staff, however, if they're laid off and they go for a month or something, I'm not sure how they can go for a month without getting a paycheck. So, again, my comments are, number one, you have to have one voice. Number two, you should look at anything over 200 people that is inside. And number three, be very, very careful about closing things that would affect the financial status of our staff.
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I'm not overly worried about this, but I do recognize that there's a need to be very cautious and err on the side of cautiousness. I think Trustee Mino had a good recommendation there with regards to kind of the guidelines to use here in the Bay. If you close whatever you close, you're going to see a big part of those people down on the river, or they're going to be somewhere else. Most of those people aren't going to stay home. I think those of us who have compromised immune systems or who have respiratory problems, I think there's a definite burden on us to be careful and to stay away from those kind of crowds. But I'm going to leave it up to our community manager, because he gets paid the big bucks for those decisions.
Well, I sort of agree with both of my colleagues. I think that the large gatherings indoors, I think that might be something to think about. And also, I'm not too worried about it either. But maybe we could. A lot of places are shutting down, like until I don't know what today's, the 13th. Like for a week and a half or 2 weeks, they're shutting down for a certain amount of time. Maybe if we did that and allowed some of the staff that is going to be affected by it to, I don't know, to use vacation, to maybe, something like that might be possible for those people. I worked here, and I don't, and when you don't work, you don't get paid. So it is tough on people. So I think if we can find a way to make sure that people don't lose a lot of time and money, that maybe that's the way to go. I don't really have any answers either, but that's the best I can do in short notice.
I did hear on the news radio about the Surgeon General saying that what's going on in here, he says that they're blowing it a little bit out. I'm just saying what I heard. It's getting blown out of proportion. It's really, no matter where you go, it's just really blown out of proportion of what this and everything. So I believe, I'd rather let it go with the staff, and what the staff comes up with, I'd rather see them go along with and let the staff decide on it and everything. If I don't see no reason, I don't know. I don't believe it's as bad as the whole thing is going on and everything. If you don't want to go somewhere, you just don't go. But if you do close these places down, they will go somewhere. You look at Winn-Dixie, you look at Walmart, you look at all these different stores and everything. They're going to stay open. If they was worried about it, they would shut down or something. But they can't either. They do stuff that keep everybody safe and healthy. And we got stuff here. I seen them clean the tables off. I seen them they got the things in the bathrooms and everything, so I could see everything is, I guess, heading the right direction. So I don't believe there's that much alarm. The elder people is not going to go out, and the young ones. So I see no problem with having staff decide how they want to do it and everything. A musical bingo, if you don't want to go, you just don't go, and that's about it. And if we say we're shutting you down, then there's a thing there. But you don't have to go to musical bingo if you don't want to, or the karaoke and any of these things till everything's resolved. Whether it be here or wherever it is, I don't see any reason why we should even really worry about it. But I don't, because like Meg O'Malley's, well, I know that's a thing there. So I don't know. It's just, I'll just leave it the way it is, because I think it's not. I've been hearing a lot, and a lot of them are just saying it's getting really blown out of proportion with everything. So I don't know, but right in this area here, I don't think we have too much to fear and everything. So that's just my opinion. That's all. So I just go with what the rest of the board thinks too. So John, whatever your decisions are, we accept them, or even the staff's food and beverage or anybody.
Okay, I'll move on. I can feel the tire tracks in my back.
You're not going over things. I can't.
Just so folks who watch this understand, staff does have plans in place to continue to pay our bills in the worst case scenario. Unlike cities and counties, we don't provide essential services, police, fire, water, wastewater. So it is possible, worst case scenario, you could have 90% of the force laid off and still pay your bills and respond to public records requests. Limited people may work from home. It'll be handled on a case-by-case basis. I will review with Kathy anticipated capacity numbers, and we may notify about certain events next week. If the outbreak does get severe, whether we don't have enough staff or we don't have the business, we may close amenities on a case-by-case basis. All employees have been told discreetly. Do you want to post things on the bulletin boards and stuff? You can take as much time off as you need to take care of yourself or your family members, and you'll have a job when you come back. Now, there's a caveat. We don't want you out playing golf or doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. And so any changes to staffing or will be put out on MailChimp, mass emails. If you're not signed up for that, please contact the administration building. Moving quickly on, 85% of the annual assessment's been received as of last week. Details are attached. A lot of things going on with ARC and violations. Interesting statistics of the month: 40 home sales and 52 new badges. Tradition started several years ago. The 21st of March, the 28th, the 4th of April, and the 18th of April, the administration building will be open from 9 a.m. to noon to get pictures taken to update your badges. St. Patrick's Day music and food is still going to go on, although if anyone doesn't feel comfortable coming out and they bought a ticket, just come to the administration building and we'll trade it out for a gift certificate for the same amount. And we will get back with you about the other items later. There's a big club championship coming up next week at the golf course, and the Martini League end of season tournament, property services, busy as ever. General information: on the 31st, the trustees will be getting a copy of their working draft proposed budget. The residents' free copy will be available at the administration building starting on Thursday, April 2nd, and the electronic copies will be on the website on Friday. Reminder, the next meeting is Friday the 3rd. And one last thing that didn't make the electronic version is Stewart Medical land lease update. Stewart Medical is working on their site plan and an artistic rendering of what the building would look like, and we have signed an agreement for a appraisal. The appraisal is expected to be done the end of the month, 1st of April, due to the first meeting in April being on the 3rd. This issue will probably come back to you on the second meeting in April. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for John? All I gotta say is, what I will stick on John's side and on Kathy and on Ernie's. If whatever this decision comes in during this couple of months or these couple of weeks, I will jump on their side and stand on their side. And I hope the rest of the board members here will do the same with me, because I feel myself, no matter how we do it, whether we do it, whether they do it, there's always going to be somebody complaining, well, we should have done it this way, we should have done it this way. And we got a competent staff here that knows what they're going to do and what is headed and everything. And I figure the board also does a good job too. So in other words, anything that comes up, anything, I will step on behind John's back and the whole staff here, and that is about it. And that's why I want to see the board also be at that time be on the staff's side, John's side, and defend them. Because I'll tell you what, if they think that they should be closed, then they'll ask to have it closed, and I will agree. I will go along and agree with them. But as of now, we're going to go play it by ear. So I don't want anybody here criticizing the staff or anybody. Please, we'll get through it and everything. And I just want that do support John and their whole staff, and I hope the board of trustees here do support his and the staff's decision. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, how do you put this? Am I on?
Good.
I just have a quick question. I have an event plan. My name is Anthony Florio. I live at 833 Thrush Circle. Can I assume my event is still on for? It's on for Sunday, March 22nd It's a fundraiser that I'm holding for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And I expect a good amount of people there. I play on the Senior Softball League. A lot of those people are going to be there. And I just need to know, I've dedicated, and Mr. Coffey knows I've dedicated a lot of time and energy into putting this thing together. And
It's up
I
to,
just need
it's
to
up
know
to
if
you. It's up to you to decide what way avenue you want to go with.
Oh,
And if you decide that you do cancel now, you can have it somewhere down the road. But I can't say no, we can't have it because I don't know what if you see something don't happen that they don't show up or something like that. Well, you just have it. You can do it for another time.
Well,
no problem.
well,
or
that's
nobody has any problem with it. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, then I'm just going to keep doing it because I expect the people to come anyway. 'Cause
Okay.
I agree with you in that respect. I think we're blowing this a little bit out of proportion, and I think I just hate to not do it after all the energy that I put into it. Okay?
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
You have any questions for John? No? Okay, Mr. Reppinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I just get a clarification on dates? The first BOT meeting has been moved to the 3rd, is that correct?
Yes.
So we're going to have back-to-back meetings then, is that correct? The 24th?
That's what you call foreshadowing something Mr. Klosky was going to bring up.
I'm ahead of the game.
Yes.
The DOR amendment, based on your action today, we're working on the language as far as the fining authority for DOR enforcement. So we will add the adjacent joined lots to that language that you will be looking at. My plan is for the first meeting in April. So if we're going the 3rd, to give you that ballot language for that 3rd agenda, if we can get it there. Just a couple of quick updates on DOR cases. The one case that we had talked about, like the worst case in Barefoot Bay that we filed the lawsuit on, 715 Barefoot Boulevard, it came into compliance. So I just wanted to let you know that case is in compliance. You will be dealing with a separate issue related to the fees and costs on that case coming forward, but I did want to let you know at least one of those cases came into compliance. On 803 Beach, which is the 3-dog case that we filed, I just, as we've been sitting here, I sent you an email with the response to that case. I don't typically copy the board members on all pleading responses. I wanted you to see that response just because I wanted the board to understand the complexity of some of these cases, even though you may not see day-to-day movement or may not think there's a lot that goes on into them. When you respond to them, when you're litigating, particularly against a pro se litigant, you get a lot of gobbledygook, for lack of a better term, in some of the answers, and it's kind of difficult to deal with some of those answers. And so I just wanted you to have a kind of just an understanding of what goes into some of these responses that we get on those cases. I believe that we'll be successful in that case ultimately, but we do have some process that we'll go through in that case. And then on 526 Persimmon, there was not an answer filed by the 6th, so we are moving for a default judgment in that case. We have a whole bunch of cases that are in the ready-to-be-filed stage. They haven't been yet, but they will be very shortly, and when we do that, we will give you a full and complete list with all updates. And then also we're still working on the compliance or the hearing date on Blissful Things, but hopefully we'll have it very, very soon. It's imminent. So I do not have it for you right now, but it's imminent. So as soon as I get it, even in advance of the meeting, I will give it to you. And that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Incidental remarks before I have anybody give any incidental remarks. What I want to know is instead of on the 24th, on a Tuesday night, we only have so far right now 2 things on the agenda, which would be the two DOR cases and nothing else. And I figured we're going to have a meeting on April the 3rd. It will be on it, which is a short span too. So I'm asking the board, would they be interested in canceling Tuesday night's board meeting and just do everything at the April 3rd meeting? There's no reason to have, because we only, so far right now, there's only the one thing that's the agenda would be just the 2 DOR cases.
Mr. Chairman, just recommendation possibly. We're talking about two issues that we may put out for approval on the deed of restriction referendum. Not referendum, but
Mail out.
mail out. Yes, thank you. Would there be any benefit in having a workshop that night just to see if there are other potential DOR changes that we want to make that we could get included in that same mail out? There may be others. We might as well address them and discuss them and see if we want to bring them to the board and include them at the same time.
What did you have in mind?
I don't have any.
I can't.
I don't have any. I don't know that I have any one thing in mind.
Well,
But we're doing it. This is an exercise. There is a cost. There is an effort involved in it. If there are other potential changes to the DOR that we want to make, it might be worth bringing them forward.
well, that's true. But does anybody have any
Well,
changes for the deal?
I think Trustee Compton's suggestion probably is a great use of that time, because with General Counsel Reppinger's latest opinion about the NRP program and the charter cap, that program's probably going to go away in a couple of years because there's going to be fewer and fewer homes that we can purchase. And so the board may want to consider some other things to try to stem the growing tide of people who are owning multiple lower-priced rental properties. I'm pretty sure Rich could come up with some suggestions. They wouldn't all be his recommendations, but he gets a lot of people suggesting, why don't you have X in one of the infamous yards that people complains about, that it's a jungle. You could add something in the DOR that says 60% of the home or 40% of the home has to be visible from the road. It would take care of that house. So there are options.
There are some opportunities there. I've had people talk to me about potential for some golf cart restrictions in the DOR and those sort of things. I just think it's best to try to make as much usage of that mail out as we can.
So you like to have a workshop on what you were just discussing.
I mean, if my
And we will-
colleagues agree that it's
right,
worthwhile, sure.
And we will cancel the regular board meeting. We won't have the board meeting.
I don't have a problem with you canceling the board meeting and having a workshop that night, but I don't see a need to have two board meetings.
I'm not going to have a board meeting. The only board meeting.
No, aren't you talking?
We'll have the one on the 3rd of April. Cancel the one on the 25th and just have the one that's going to come up on the regular board meeting on the 3rd. Because there's a
exactly.
regular board meeting on the 25th, but since there's only one agenda item on there, or even if there was two, it's not worth even having. So
I agree with you that have the one on the 3rd, but if you want to have a workshop on that other night, then that's fine.
that's okay. That's fine with me. Luann?
And my last comment, Chairman Klosky, would be just appreciation to the audience and the members of the community that come out, because we've had two long BOT meetings this week and the last one, but we are trying to get a lot done. There's a lot to talk about, and it's appreciative of the community to come out and support
I
it.
understand that. Yes.
Just a final question. Are you going to discuss about the name changes, or are you just going to sit on it?
The contest don't end until the 31st
I'm
of
asking
March.
for it to be stopped because the rules aren't fair.
Yeah, but we didn't pass a motion asking whether people want us to do this or not. We're simply passed a motion saying we're going to do it, and you can vote on it or not vote on it.
But I can't vote because it's not on the ballot. You don't give me a choice to say no.
We don't care if we're not asking whether you want to do it or not. We're asking if you want to do it, what would your choice be for a name?
Oh.
And additionally, we're not bound by the results of it. We've not committed to accepting and making the changes that come in.
Okay, thank you. So that, my understanding, we will have a workshop that night at 7:00, and we'll have that BOT meeting canceled. We'll have the one on the 3rd of April. Do we have to have a motion? Yeah. like to have somebody make a motion to cancel that meeting? And
I make a motion that we cancel that meeting and instead hold a workshop.
okay, I need a second. Okay, all in favor of that motion, please say aye. Motion passes. Okay. Any other incidental remarks? Luann?
I did have some, but I'm not going to have it. There's one of 3 people.
Okay, and Mr. Minor? Okay. I don't have any either, so thank you for coming, and we'll see you at the workshop, and the next board meeting will be on the April the 3rd.
I make
Thank
a
you.
motion that we adjourn the meeting, Chairman
Meeting
Klosky.
adjourned. Thank you.
I just gave you that little drawing because when we were having our meetings about the designs, nobody was invited to. Me and other people had concepts.
The staff put the graphics on there.
So, but there was supposed to be meetings where the residents could participate.
They did have some meetings that we had beginning about Luann's plans and all of that, and we just junked all that and said the staff come up with a design. It wasn't anybody else, it was the staff coming back with a design. Because that's totally the staff design.